Good morning, good morning, good morning, Jay. Good people. It is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. This is Wake Up with Ray G. My man, Jay Rich, how you doing this morning, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm happy. I'm excited. It's World Series day. The World
Mm.
Series is finally kicking off. A lot of good storylines there. And we had a lackluster football game yesterday. We called it
Oh,
though.
man.
We expected it. The ending
Uh,
was semi-dramatic, semi no team
uh,
wanted to win. We can get into that, but excited to be here, man. Happy to be here Tuesday. World Series. I'm pumped.
yeah, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. I'm happy y'all are joining us. Everybody in the comments, watching us on YouTube. Those of you guys that can't wake up and you're laying in the bed and you got to listen to us via the podcast, we appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Wake Up with Ray G, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, anywhere podcasts can be found, as well as subscribe to the Bets TV Media YouTube channel. But yeah, news today. We've got some interesting news. Packers All-Pro wide receiver Devontae Adams is out this Thursday. This is devastating news for my fantasy rosters. This is not good news for the Green Bay Packers. But they're facing the undefeated team in the NFL, the only undefeated team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals. This is it's a big loss for Green Bay, and they're also going to be without their defensive coordinator Joe Barry. Neither are going to be there, so not good for a short week for us with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. On the contrary, Aaron Rodgers will be having to deal with Chandler Jones, who's activated, as well as defensive lineman Zach Allen, who they are back off of the COVID list. So Aaron Rodgers is going to have to make do without his best weapon and have to deal with some more pass rushers for the Cardinals. J.J. Watt already doing his thing out there. And Jimmy Garoppolo was already named the starter for the 49ers this week after a brutal game on Sunday night. We didn't talk a ton about that Sunday night matchup, but it was monsoon, raining. Jimmy G throws a game-sealing interception at the end. The ball slips out of his hands. Made some good throws, made some bad throws. I'm seeing a lot of people from the 49ers camp, beat reporters, media people saying it's a lost season. Let's just develop Trey Lance. If Trey Lance is healthy, you got to play him. Clearly, I guess this signifies that he's not healthy, so he's not going to play. Jimmy Garoppolo back under center, so probably a heavy dose of Elijah Mitchell. No targets for Brandon Ayuk, and still no George Kittle. He's chilling on IR. What a just a wet fart of a season for the 49ers, man. A lot of high expectations for the Niners. Jay, a lot of people talk about Kyle Shanahan being this offensive genius, this guru, this mastermind. How damn overrated has he been as a head coach? And I know he made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but since that moment in time, it's like, and maybe I'm not in tune, but it seems like they haven't lost a ton of pieces. I mean, is Kyle Shanahan a little overrated, man?
I think it's very difficult to say the contrary, right? Like Kyle Shanahan has done some great things with what we would kind of view as marginal talent, like Deebo Samuel, talented, but definitely playing above where we thought he would be. Brandon Ayuk, same thing last season. George Kittle, I don't know really what people expected much of him, but he, turned into an
What do
all-pro
you
tight
mean?
end, right?
Yes, people expected much from George Kittle. Absolutely, people expected a lot from George Kittle. 100%.
Okay. George Kittle, highly touted prospect apparently out of Iowa, but, I don't think he always
Oh,
has
out
the
of
biggest
Iowa?
pieces.
No, I'm talking about just like going into the season, not out of Iowa.
I'm
No.
I'm talking about where the players he has, like Trey Lance is his highest acquisition. Brandon Ayuk was a big deal, and now he doesn't use him. I think Kyle Shanahan just gets in his own way a lot of the times. The system is still great. Elijah Mitchell, again, a guy who's playing extremely well. You touted him a lot, but being in a system that's conducive to his skill set definitely helps. And so I think it's a bit of both. Is he overthinking it? Does he have the right pieces? I think the defense has been a problem because they haven't been healthy. I think it's 2 straight years they haven't been healthy. That running back room seemingly is never healthy. So while I don't think he has the fairest shake, I think that he is still to blame when it's been, they went on that Super Bowl run and then it's been 3 or 4 years at least since they've really even come close.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. Like, how many years ago was it they went to the Super Bowl? Was it 2 or 3 years ago? I think it was. I think it was.
I
This
think
is
it's
year
longer than
three.
that, man.
No, it's 3 years ago, man. Because I was. It was the last year at my old house. It had to have been 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. But I don't know, man. I'm hearing a lot about Brian Flores, and Brian Flores has absolutely looked terrible. Some of these other coaches, Mike Zimmer, underperforming. The you know the jury is still out on the Denver coach, Vic Fangio, Matt Nagy, all these coaches, but I don't hear Shanahan's name tossed around there with the coaches that should be on the hot seat, but I 100% think that with the talent around him, with the pieces that were assembled, with the acquisition of players, the fact that you mortgaged, a lot of your draft to move up in order to acquire Trey Lance, I'm just saying, man, where the shoe fits, he should start getting some of the blame. He should start getting some of the blame. What are you laughing at? What do you see?
No, I'm just looking to see. It was 2019 that they won the NFC. The NFC, yeah. So you were correct. I was just double checking that. But then the other one was back in 2012 when they lost to the Ravens.
Yeah, but
in the Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah, that was Harbaugh. That has nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan. Real quick check on your Scott Fishbowl roster, man. How are your fantasy? How's your Scott Fishbowl team doing?
Oh no.
How are your fantasy rosters doing?
My fantasy rosters are all over the place. I've been talking to you a lot about how I'm tearing down a roster. Traded away Keenan Allen, traded away Saquon Barkley, traded away Deontay Johnson, traded away all these guys. I have you at my disposal whenever I need you. I say, Ray, what do I need to do? And you say, tear it down. You got a couple good classes coming. So I tore a few rosters down. I got a few in the middle. I gotta see what I'm gonna do with those. But Scott Fishbowl has been terrible, man. I drafted a terrible team, and I just have to own that.
Quick. Who did you draft in the Scott Fishbowl? Who did you draft?
I'm not gonna give myself a ton of flack. I got hit by the Cam Akers bug. So what am I gonna do? Like beginning of the season, drafted Cam Akers. Like I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks later. Done. I drafted Josh Jacobs. He hasn't panned out. I drafted Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott as my quarterback, so that's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
but wide receiver one, Cortland Sutton. Drafted Bateman pretty high. Drafted 2 tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant. That's not working out. Tight end premium in Scott Fishbowl. It was just a bad year. I tried a different strategy. I didn't punt tight end like I always do. We always talk about. And I'm paying for it dearly this year. It's bad, man. It's real bad.
What's your record right now in the league? What's your record in the bowl?
I honestly think I'm probably 2-5 at best.
Don't say you're not paying attention. You got to pay attention at all times.
I check the rosters, but it just hurts. Like I start my lineup, but I can't check the outcome because it just hurts. It just hurts every week. So I get that email from Scott, and it's like, Jordan, you lost by 50 points again. I'm like, damn.
Well, what was it, 2 years ago, I was listening to you during the draft, and you told me to draft like all these players that were absolutely terrible. And this season, I did no mocks. Remember I said it going in. I didn't do any Scott Fishbowl mocks. I damn sure didn't listen to you this year. I just was like, I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to go in there and do my thing. And, Jay, I'm telling you right now, bro, I've got a shot. I'm just telling Let me put this on record. What have I been saying from day one? What have I been saying from day one?
Okay, you have been saying that you have a shot to win, and you're gonna. You said you were gonna win, and then probably about 3 weeks later you doubled down. I remember the double down. I'm pretty sure I have a screenshot of it too.
I doubled down. I said that I'm going to win the Scott Fishbowl this year, and I doubled down on that in our group chat. Now, will that actually come to fruition? I don't know, but right now GQ is sitting at 6-1. And, Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers, my 2 quarterbacks. People are like, you didn't draft Drew Lock late. Like, my thinking is if one of those 2 guys go down, I'm screwed anyway, so why even waste another pick on some random-ass quarterback? Like, who cares? Yeah, whatever. What would have been the good to draft Sam Darnold? Like, he's probably going to give me negative fantasy points. So, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers. Running backs, Myles Gaskin, Najee Harris, Khalil Herbert, Alvin Kamara, James Robinson, Ronald Jones, and Ramondre Stevenson. So I got a nice stable of running backs. Wide receivers: Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Jones, Hunter Renfrow, Jacoby Myers, Michael Gallup, Gabe Davis, Corey Davis, and the worst fab pickup of all time, Marquez Callaway. And then tight ends: Hunter Henry, Ricky Seals-Jones, Logan Thomas, and Robert Tonyan. I'm 6-1. I'm one of the higher scored teams in the tournament. So I got a shot, man. I've got a shot.
Yeah. You got a better shot than me with my garbage roster. But I just checked. I'm 3-4.
There you go.
And it's funny because in my division, number 1 is the Pro Football Doc, David Chow. And I was disparaging his name all draft because he took forever to make a pick. And here he is sitting at the top of the division, 7-0. Killing us. Shout out to David Chow for crushing us in Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah, man. Scott Fish, dope. Shout out to you, Scott, and all the great things you do in the fantasy community. Bruning is 2-5 as well. Stone said he's 2-5. Patrick Mahomes is killing him. And I'm telling you, man, Chiefs are going to be in the market for a quarterback next year. But, Jay, do you want to get to the World Series preview, baby? The
Yes,
matchup,
please.
I asked you what was the games that you wanted to see, and this was not the one that you picked. So we got the complete opposite of what you wanted to see. But there's a lot of narratives and storylines because a lot of baseball purists are probably real upset that the Houston Astros have made their way back. And they're holding on to those jerseys tight. So, Jay, give us a little news about the World Series, man.
Oh, man. So I dove deep for this one because Ray needs all the info so he can make an informed decision. But for me, today's very historic moment for the Braves, who had to endure tremendous amounts of losing seasons. They are underdogs in this matchup, which I already predicted. Makes a lot of sense against the Astros. But the Braves went to five World Series in the 90s. They won 11 straight division titles from 95 to 2005. But then kind of went downhill. So they had to retool, add new talent, and have been on the rise. And now they're back. I believe they won 4 straight division titles. Now they're back in the World Series. But the Astros, on the other hand, man, they've been here before. The core of HOU, Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman has been the cornerstone pieces for the Houston Astros in the 3 World Series that they've been in the last 5 seasons. They won it all in 2017 in one of the most exciting World Series of all time. They broke the record for the most home runs in a World Series. And I believe George Springer was the MVP, hitting 5 home runs in that World Series in 7 games. Crazy World Series. I remember watching it. It was one of the most fun we've seen in years. But the fans were their hearts were breaking on every pitch. And they heard it to the sound of a beating trash can every single game in Houston. The reason why, of course, I'm referring to the sign stealing scandal of the Houston Astros, which will never be forgiven. Never by these fans. In 2019, former Astros pitcher Mike Fiers leaked the story that the Astros were using cameras in center field to film the opposing catcher's signals, and they were caught banging trash cans to let these players know what pitch was coming. They were cheating, man. They were cheating. And then there's Jose Altuve telling me, don't rip off my jersey in the ALCS when they beat the Yankees.
Don't rip it off.
There was rumors that they had electronic devices, giving them a little shock to let them know what kind of things were happening. Again, this is more speculation than what was actually found. But the trash can, there's video of Yuli Gurriel banging that trash can to let the fans know what pitches were coming. Now, again,
so they really were. So they were. What was happening? I mean, you got all this
what happened was
in the narrative. Just tell me what happened. What happened?
So there was cameras in center field in Houston. Those were going to either Apple Watches or iPads, and they had coaches watching them. And then what would happen? They would relay a signal to someone who was literally standing at the top of the dugout. Like, you know, the top of the dugout steps where if you're on deck, you stand. You're not in the batter's box, but you're on deck right at the top of the steps. Banging trash cans like they're rallying, like they're trying to get excited, but they're telling the hitters which pitches are coming, whether it's off speed.
They were using Morse code with the trash cans?
Sure. I mean, you call it Morse code, you call it stupid code. It was very obvious. The Houston Asterisks is what people like to call them. But ultimately, no suspensions were filed. No players got suspended for this. And what ended up happening was the MLB fined the Houston Astros $5 million, which is the maximum allowed in Major League Baseball, and they forfeited their first and second round picks. Now, the fallout was GM Jeff Luhnow was fired. Manager AJ Hinch was fired. He's now been hired by the Detroit Tigers. Carlos Beltran was supposed to be a manager for the Mets. They said, nah, they ripped up his contract before he even ever started. Yeah. And then you have Alex Cora, who is apparently the henchman, the head honcho, who actually was coming off a World Series win with the Boston Red Sox when this happened. He was ultimately suspended for the 2020 season and now is back. And so it's funny when we were talking about the narrative, I didn't even think of the Alex Cora versus Houston narrative when Boston was playing the Astros again. But it's just crazy, man. Then you have the Atlanta Braves who they did it the right way, They're an underdog right now. 2 different paths, 2 different teams, and nobody gave them a chance when they lost their young superstar, Ronald Acuna Jr., to an ACL injury in July. But the Astros, man, classic supervillain. You love them, you hate them, but they're damn good regardless of what you think. And they're without their ace, Justin Verlander, who had Tommy John surgery earlier this year. So it should be a great series. I'm really excited for it. It's the World Series, for whatever reason, it always lives up to the billing. Last year, Tampa Bay and LA, and we've seen walk-off home runs in Game 7s. We've seen tons of crazy things happen in World Series recently, so I'm just super excited for another one.
Yeah, man, and who do you have? Like, if you had to make your pick right now, who do you think wins this thing?
I want the Braves. The Braves deserve it. I think that what they've done to retool this roster, they brought in Jorge Soler from the Kansas City Royals. They brought in Eddie Rosario, who was the MVP of the NLCS against the Dodgers. He's the one who actually hit the go-ahead home run in Game 6. I think they're just running really hot right now. I think they have a better back-end pitching staff. The starters, I think it's pretty close, but we're going to see. The Astros can still hit. They still have Altuve, Bregman. They have Yordan Alvarez, who's a monster right now. I believe he was the ALCS MVP. So anything can happen. We're going to see a lot of hitting, but I think the back-end bullpen is ultimately what can win it for the Braves, but it depends. How well does Houston play at home? They play really well at home. They always have, and, sometimes they were cheating. So how are they going to do this time around? 3-5. They've got the experience. The Braves are kind of the new ones on the block. They've been trying to get here for so long. They're finally here. We're going to see how they perform.
All right, and that kicks off tonight, right, on Fox?
Yeah, tonight in Houston. I believe it's Charlie Morton. I forget who the opposing pitcher is for the Astros, but I don't think it's McCullers. But yeah, I know that Charlie Morton's pitching for the Braves. It's in Houston. I believe it's like 8 o'clock, probably on Fox, yeah.
All right, I got to rock with Houston, man. I lived there. That's where I met my wife. I lived there for 12 years. I got to rock with Houston. It makes sense, right? I don't know what's funny about that. It makes sense. We didn't touch on all the games from Sunday, so I do want to talk about the Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Rams. Revenge game for both Jared Goff and Matt Stafford. And what I want to focus on more so in this matchup are the players. Matthew Stafford, his over-under was set at 286.5 yards and 2.5 touchdowns. He smashed both of those. The Rams are going to be right there at the end. They're going to be one of the top 2 teams, top 3 teams in the NFC. Matt Stafford, he showed why the Rams went to go get him from Detroit. And there was actually a report on Sunday morning that Sean McVay called Jared Goff, like right after the trade or before the trade was going to happen, to talk to him, clear the air, courtesy. And the report is Jared Goff hung up on him, legit hung up on him. So it was a revenge game for Goff, but it didn't go as well for Mr. Jared Goff. They started off pulling out all the tricks, onside kicks, reverses, passes, running back passes, anything that they could think of to try to eke out a victory, and it did not happen. Matthew Stafford, over under 3.5 rushing yards. I keep telling y'all every week, take the under on Matt Stafford. He's not going to run the ball. That's free money. I know 3.5 yards does not seem like a lot, and it's not, but he doesn't run the ball. This is one that if you just bet this one, Patrick Mahomes is over. You parlay that with Taylor Heineke's over every single week, you will make more money at the end of the season than you will lose, because these players just consistently do what they need to do or don't need to do what they need to do in the running department. So that was good to see Matthew Stafford hit both of his overs from a passing perspective and then hit the under on the rushing perspective. Darrell Henderson is over under 79.5 rushing yards. He was well under that. Hey, the Lions did a good job corralling the run. They just couldn't do anything with the Rams through the air. And a big part of that is Cooper Kupp, man. And I saw somebody talk about his nickname being Vanillatron. So, back in Detroit, Matthew Stafford had his Megatron, Calvin Johnson. Now he's got Cooper Kupp Vanillatron. And Cooper Kupp is not sneaky anything. He's just one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. It's incredible. Great route runner, solid hands, catches everything that's thrown to him. He was already one of the best kind of slot wide receivers that we thought of with Jared Goff, but he's truly developed into one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Definitely playing like a top 5 guy this season. He is this season a top 5 guy. He, Jamar Chase, and then Devontae Adams, maybe DeAndre Hopkins. We can debate that. But Cooper Kupp is definitely locked into the top 5 this year. He's going to get the much-needed Pro Bowl nod this year and hopefully push for an All-Pro nod. I saw he's on pace for 130 receptions, 1,900 yards, and 22 touchdowns on the season. Cooper Kupp, definition of a league winner in fantasy football. Now, DeAndre Swift, because he's the only person that matters from the Lions side. But T.J. Hawkinson to a certain degree, but DeAndre Swift is the big dog. And a lot of people are talking about DeAndre Swift as the running back 1 in Dynasty. Maybe, man. And the crazy thing is he's doing it without being productive on the ground. He doesn't get a ton of carries. He's being used exactly how Alvin Kamara was used during the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara era. 11 carries, 8 carries, 14 carries, 8, 11, 13, 13. So he doesn't even have a game over 15 rushes on the ground. But where DeAndre Swift is excelling, and one of the things that I liked about him coming out of Georgia is his prowess in the receiving game. Right now, 11 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets. And this past Sunday, he had 10 targets, 8 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown with a long touchdown catch in that one. I mean, he does it every single week through the air. And I believe it was Player Profiler that tweeted out the side-by-side graphic of Jonathan Taylor's fantasy points this season compared to DeAndre Swift's, and it's damn near identical, with Swift doing literally not much on the ground. I mean, his highest rushing yard total this season was 51 rushing yards, week 5 versus Minnesota. After that, he's going to give you about 39, 40 yards, and that's why you see his over-under rushing total consistently at like 44 and a half, 43 and a half, and you think he should be able to hit this. But maybe Detroit, missing Frank Ragnow, offensive line a little bit banged up, no threat, no fear of the receivers, so you just load the box, and that's why they use DeAndre Swift on the outside. My question to you, Jay, if you had the number 1 pick, or you were picking the first running back off of the board, who would your selection be? Would it be Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, JT, Najee Harris, or DeAndre Swift? And I'm talking dynasty. Which player would you rather have?
Oh, of those players. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I'm tempted to go another direction.
Okay, you go ahead.
I'm tempted to take Alvin Kamara.
Number 1, RB1 in dynasty, not seasonal leagues, dynasty.
Yeah. I think that Alvin Kamara is worth a lot more than people are, because of the workload now. The workload is way more than it was ever previously. And so you think about, he's still getting the receiving work that DeAndre Swift is getting, but he's getting 15, 20 carries a game, which he's never seen. So I think that he can make the case. He's a guy who can, see a massive workload that was previously Christian McCaffrey, but now we're seeing that from Alvin Kamara. So I think he's worth consideration. Even though he's a little bit older, he doesn't have the touch load that some of these other guys got.
I just want to clarify one more time. In dynasty, you would take Alvin Kamara over Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Why would I take Christian McCaffrey over Alvin Kamara?
I'm trying to understand why you would take Alvin Kamara over Jonathan Taylor.
So who was the RB1 last season?
I don't know. But we're not in last season. We're in this season.
Okay, but I'm saying Alvin Kamara was RB1 last season. He's probably could be RB1 this season as well. So why am I not taking Alvin Kamara as RB1? Jonathan Taylor is great, but he's not going to get in the passing game.
And he's 26
and then
years.
DeAndre Swift is great.
He's 26 years old. I mean, it just doesn't matter to you. I'm just asking a question. I'm just asking a question. I mean, you're acting like I'm asking you something that's blasphemous. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone listening is thinking the same damn thing that I'm thinking.
I know that they can think
Kamara
it, but you got
guys.
Yeah, Taylor can run it. Swift can catch it. Kamara can do both. That's just how I see it. 2 to 3 year window. Take Alvin Kamara.
Get him off of the screen. All right. Speaking of Alvin Kamara, the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks played last night. 13-10. The Saints pulled it out. This was a boring game. I mean, there was a lot of drama in here. DK Metcalf early on. I just got to see this comment because I know this is how many receiving yards does Taylor have? Uh-oh. Go get him,
He's probably got a lot. Probably 300-ish. I'll look it up. Give me a second.
Go get him, Bruning. All right, back to this New Orleans Saints Seattle Seahawks game. Started off with a bang. DK Metcalf, 84-yard touchdown catch. It looked like Geno Smith was going to get off to a fire start. DK Metcalf was going to go full Jamar Chase. He and Marshawn Lattimore are fighting the entire game. Lattimore had about 8 personal fouls. DK, he's an annoying player. I can already see where his career is headed, where I guarantee within the next couple of years he's going to be labeled as dirty. Just watch. Whether you call it tactics, receiving tactics, or what, some of the stuff that he does, I'm like, he's going to get – he's a big bully. He's a big bully. Yeah, Bruning said, I feel like it's close to Kamara, but could be wrong. But DK
nearly
Metcalf,
identical.
Yeah, nearly identical. So your proclamation of Alvin Kamara, the confused look you were giving me made no sense. We all knew that was a terrible take. But DK Metcalf, 84-yard touchdown catch. Geno Smith looked like he was going. Alvin Kamara came out the gate. He runs the ball one time. They pull him off the field. Insert Devine Exigbo. Winston running around trying to get it done. But at the end of the day, Kamara, I mean, he did what Kamara does, which is catch a ton of passes, right? 10 receptions, 128 yards, 1 touchdown on 11 targets. He also had 20 carries for 51 yards, averaging 2.6 yards a carry. Not a lot, but 30 touches in total for Kamara. Was this a career high for him? Has he ever had that many touches in a game? I'm not sure, but he was balling. And if you went up against him in fantasy last night, it probably did not work well for you because Kamara was balling. Jameis Winston last night had 222 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He didn't throw any picks. He did his best to throw a couple of picks, but he didn't do it. So thank goodness Jameis Winston kept the ball from being turned over. He did fumble once, but it was recovered. Overall, this matchup after that 1 catch from DK, he only had another catch the entire game on 5 targets. Tyler Lockett, non-existent. Alex Collins running into the back of his lineman again. I know a lot of people tried to talk about me a couple of weeks ago when I said that Alex Collins missed that hole. So go try to explain this game away because 16 carries, 35 yards, he's terrible. Just play Travis Homer. I mean, Seattle's terrible. This is a bad football team. They fall to, 2-5 on the season. New Orleans improves to 4-2. Seattle's done, man. They need to clean house. I don't know what they do with this roster. Without Russell Wilson, they're garbage. And if Russell Wilson somehow wants out of this situation, because right now when you're looking at the NFC West, in what world are they, when do they become the best team again? I mean, they've got to deal with Arizona. They've got to deal with Los Angeles. And if the 49ers can get their shit together, they got to deal with that. Those are 6 games, six times they have to play those teams. I just don't see a world in which Seattle climbs its way back to the top. And we talked about windows in the NFL. Seattle's window closed when they didn't hand Marshawn Lynch the ball on the goal line versus New England to win that Super Bowl. Because while we can never predict the future, I think there's a greater probability and a chance that Marshawn Lynch punches that ball in the end zone and the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl. They're second in, I think, 2 in 3 seasons at that point in time where they would have gone back-to-back. Their window's closed, man. Their window's closed. Kenny Stills, anytime TD, that didn't hit. Marquez Callaway over 42.5 receiving yards. That didn't hit. Kamara didn't hit his rushing total or his rushing attempts. Neither of those hit. This game was just a bad game. Do you have anything to take away from this one, Jay?
Nah, man, I don't. But I will say to you that in regards to the Seattle window closing, I remember when we talked about this during the NFC West preview, is that they actually did win the division last year and were 12-4, which is nuts because the roster hasn't really turned around, hasn't really changed a lot. Obviously, Russell Wilson is hurt, and that's a big factor here. But, Chris Carson's still here. He's been in and out of the lineup, and DK and Lockett and all that stuff. The defense is a little bit worse. But, again, paying Jamal Adams a stupid amount of money is not smart anyways.
Did they lose their draft picks too? Did they lose their draft pick? They lost.
They don't have many draft picks. Like for years they've been, because remember they traded them all to the Jets. They traded 2 firsts, I think, in 2 seconds for Jamal Adams, then paid him a stupid amount of money that he doesn't deserve. Now, I'm all for someone getting their money, but I don't think he was worth it personally, and their defense is suffering because of that. But the other thing that I thought was interesting stat from last night was that they're 0-3 this season. The last time they started 0-3 at home, they went 2-15. I don't think they go 2-15 this season. Russell Wilson will come back. Just a funny stat that last time they started 0-3 was in like 1995 or something, and they finished 2-15 on the season.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. I mean, I keep forgetting they won I don't know how they won the division last year. No clue. But I know now they're not better than the Rams and they're not better than the Cardinals. We know that for definitively not better than those 2 teams. And the last takeaway from Week 7, and this is all Jordan has on the show sheet, Cards, still good. The Arizona Cardinals are still good. The Houston Texans, they tried. They tried their best. Arizona's just too good, man. Kyler Murray, James Conner running like he did at Pittsburgh, Chase Edmonds. They're just a really good football team. They're the only undefeated team in the league. And, now they get a break. They don't have to deal with Devontae Adams. So it'll be interesting to see where Aaron Rodgers, his passing yards prop, his rushing yards, all that stuff opens up. It could be a heavy dose of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in that matchup. Allen Lazard also has been playing well, so interesting to see how that plays out. So, Jay, let's pivot to college real quick. So on Tuesdays, we wrap up Monday Night Football. It's kind of early to really dive into the next slate of NFL games, and we're actually going to switch some stuff up on the show in regards to those. We are going to, instead of trying to run through every game, we're going to pick like our Fab Five, our top 5 games that we're targeting, bets, player props, action, and then we're really going to take a deep dive into those games. Like, it's just, I feel like we can get more substance, more actionable advice if we kind of scale back and really focus on the games that have the high implied team totals, over-unders, and sort of figure out where the matchups are that we like. And really, because of that, we'll be able to dive into some more college matchups too. So I know Hunter, our boy Hunter Stewart, will appreciate that. But let's just recap where we're at. And I want to take a look at the updated Heisman Trophy odds for Week 9 in college football, man. Like, where are we at? So, and the way that this is listed right now is where they were and where they currently are at this point in time. So the leader still for the Heisman Trophy is Bryce Young, wide receiver, the quarterback from Alabama. He is not a wide receiver. He opened up at 10.5 to 1, and he is now sitting at what is this? 140?
1.4 to 1. 1.4 to 1.
1.4 to 1 to win. So he's the odds-on favorite with Matt Corral at 3 to 1. C.J. Stroud, the quarterback from Ohio State, at 5 to 1. Kenny Pickett. Look at Kenny Pickett, 100 to 1 coming in the season, and is now all the way down to 9.5 to 1. Kenneth Walker was unranked. He's 30 to 1. Caleb Williams, 31 to 1. I put a little action on Caleb Williams. I put half a unit on Caleb Williams.
I like it.
I just threw it in there, Jay. I put half a unit on Caleb Williams last week. So he was unranked, of course, and now he's 31 to 1. Trevion Henderson, 125 to 1, and now is at 33 to 1. It's interesting. And then Desmond Ridder, 40 to 1, 34 to 1. None of those guys are going to win it. And as you see, no Bijan Robinson. I have to drill this into young bettors' minds, Jay, that betting the running back that is not going to play on the team that will be in the national championship game is a terrible bet. I don't care how good of a running back prospect Bijan Robinson is. I told everybody that asked that it's just wasting money. Betting on Bijan Robinson to win the Heisman is just wasting money. They're losing games. He's playing like he's putting up, hear me when I say this, he's putting up good running back numbers, not spectacular running back numbers. Whatever his NFL draft potential is it has no bearing on who wins this award. A running back is not going to win it unless that running back just goes absolutely nuts and that team is really, really good. Jonathan Taylor went back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons and didn't win the Heisman Trophy. So it's just not going to happen. Bryce Young is going to win this award. If Bryce Young finishes the season healthy, here's what I'm going to say, Jay. Bryce Young is going to win this award if he finishes the season healthy and this is a big and they beat Georgia in the SEC title game, which I don't think they will. He's got to beat Georgia. If he loses to Georgia, I think it opens the door for Matt Corral or C.J. Stroud. That's it. It's going to be one of those 3 players that win this award. If Bryce Young gets manhandled by Georgia in the SEC title game, they fail to make the college football playoff, he will not get it, and by default, it will go to Matt Corral. This is one of the most, I don't want to say one of the most because the Mark Ingram year was pretty bad. That was a pretty bad Heisman. But this is just kind of like nobody's really standing out above head and shoulders. And if you're asking me who the best player in college football is right now, it might be that freshman out of Ohio State, but they're damn sure not going to give it to a freshman. He's incredible, man. I've got a show dropping today, Jay, on YouTube, sort of my top 10 takeaways from the college football season. Everybody talks about Bijan Robinson being this generational prospect, the best running back in college football. No, man. If you're asking me head up, 1-for-1, would I rather Robinson or Henderson? It would probably be Henderson. I think he's the best looking running back that I've seen, just freshman running back that I've seen in college football in a long, long time. I'm not going to go back to Adrian Peterson. I'm not going to go back to Reggie Bush. I'm not going to do that. But he's the best one that I've seen in a long time, man. And if I just 1-for-1, you're asking me, Ray, you get Bijan or you can get Henderson, I'm probably taking Henderson, and that's straight up, man. I mean, he's doing stuff that freshman running backs should not be doing, and I mean, he's posting better numbers than Robinson. I know Robinson was in a timeshare last year with Roschon Johnson, but Henderson is a different cat, bro. It's a different cat. Who do you like on this list for the updated Heisman odds?
I actually think that Kenneth Walker has the only outside shot. And so you're talking about if Bryce Young does, like, the only reason why is because if Michigan State runs the table somehow, I think he's got a pretty damn good shot to win the Heisman. We know how talented he is, but if for some reason that did happen, I could see him getting it over Bryce Young or Matt Corral because they lost games, right? But again, that's still a long shot. They still would probably have to beat Ohio State. They're playing Michigan this week, so I'm not going to count on it. But, Caleb Williams, we'll see. He didn't play the whole season, and he's a freshman. So, again, same type of thing. Kenny Pickett, maybe. But then you have Stroud, you have Corral, you have Young. We'll see how that kind of shakes out. Corral already lost a game. Bryce Young already lost a game. So we'll see. But I think, if somehow they did go undefeated at Michigan State, Kenneth Walker should probably be the odds-on favorite for Heisman.
Well, that's the story, right? And that's what we talked about. A running back that's played like the best running back in college on a team that's going to push for a national championship. If Michigan State beats Michigan and then they beat Ohio State and Kenneth Walker does what Kenneth Walker does in those games, maybe he's got a chance. So 30-1, because that would knock C.J. Stroud out of the equation. We don't think Alabama's going to beat Georgia. So it's really going to come down to Walker versus Corral. So 30-1 odds, if you believe that Michigan State is the truth, if you think this team is going to beat Michigan and then eventually beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, Kenneth Walker is 100% the outside shot of a running back who's on one of the best teams, playing for a potential national championship, led the country in rushing. Yes, there's a case to be made that that's actually a good call. Couple of things need to go right in order for that to come to fruition, but I do like that. Let's take a look at the updated MVP odds. MVP odds, week 8 of the NFL season. Okay, we're still here. Josh Allen leading the way at 4-1. Kyler Murray 4.5-1. Dak Prescott 5-1. Tom Brady 7.5-1. Matt Stafford 8-1. Lamar, let's just take a look. Lamar 25-1. Derrick Henry 25-1. Justin Herbert 18-1. I see you've got Matt Stafford highlighted. Is that who you like?
No, actually. I think that Herbert still has a really good shot. I'm surprised he doesn't have better odds. Stafford was just the guy that was already highlighted in the list. But one of the guys that I'm really curious is, can you name the two people that aren't on this list from the preseason list? Obviously, like you mentioned, Allen, Murray, Prescott, Brady, Stafford, Rodgers, Herbert, Jackson. We're on our preseason list. Henry and Carr are the new additions. Who are the two names that are currently off the list that started on the list?
Oh, this
one is really obvious, and the other one is difficult. But if you think hard enough, you'll get it.
One is really obvious. Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
One is Patrick Mahomes, the odds-on favorite at 5.5-1, who is now like 30-1 or 40-1. I forget. He's 12th on the list. But the other guy is actually from the game we talked about last night. It's Russell Wilson.
Oh, Russell Wilson.
No, it's Russell Wilson. You just confused Jameis Winston as an MVP candidate over Russell Wilson. I need this soundbite forever.
Didn't you say, though, that Jameis Winston – I remember you talking about Jameis Winston. That's why I had –
We talked about him, but he was like 75 to 1. But the craziest odds is Carr, right? Carr at 70-1, now at 25-1. Again, we talked about on Monday – he is winning right now, currently, the AFC West. So, I mean, is he an MVP candidate? I don't know. I think Brady, to Evan's point, still has great odds, 7.5-1. Stafford, I'm iffy on. He's a bit hot and cold right now. It's kind of all cup. Rodgers, I don't love. I honestly think Herbert has a shot. He had a couple bad games. His odds are still the same as preseason, which tells you it's great value. From the beginning, I told you I think Allen was one of the favorites. I don't know what to do with Kyler because he's always been a favorite other than at the very beginning. But since, about week 2, he's been like 7.5-1. And so now it's like, do we think the cards are for real? And we'll get into that in our next segment. But I just don't know if I believe in the cards enough to where Kyler Murray is MVP. I think that I'd rather trust Josh Allen to win MVP over Kyler Murray right now. I think they have a better roster.
So I'm going to tell you how this is going to play out. Is going to play out. Whatever quarterback wins their division, if Josh Allen wins the AFC, if he's got that team in position to win, he's gonna win it. If it's Kyler Murray, if they somehow finish the season, 14-3, 15-2, even 13-4, and they're the number 1 seed in the NFC, if Arizona's the number 1 seed in the NFC, I think Kyler Murray will get it. Tom Brady is the one who should be. I mean, he's having. I think he's on pace. I know he's on pace for over 5,050 and 50 touchdowns on the season. I mean, literally, he's got a chance to put up his highest statistical output ever at year 40, at age 43, 40. How old is Tom Brady? 42, 43, 44?
I think he's 43.
Most yards, highest completion percentage, most touchdowns of his career. I still think at 7.5 to 1, that's not bad odds for Tom Brady. Dak Prescott, we talked about it, and we don't have this. We're not talking about this on the show sheet, but Dak Prescott versus Joe Burrow for comeback player of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot tighter than we initially expected because we were like, this is Dak's award. I still think it's Dak's award, but Joe
Do you want
Burrow,
the odds on it?
Yeah, what are the odds?
So Dak is minus 300 and Joe Burrow is plus 700.
Oh, wow.
Which is a really wide gap
It's
still.
a really wide gap.
It's really wide.
It's Dak's award. I mean, Dak is I'm just saying Joe Burrow, he's second, right? I'm assuming Joe Burrow is second in those odds.
Yeah, he's second.
Played. If something were to, knock on all the woods, every wood you can think of, knock on it. If Dak got hurt, then Joe Burrow would win that award because he's balling out. But these MVP odds, it's going to come down to the wire. I mean, look at from 5 to 1. It's only a few points that separate these guys. 8 to 1 compared to 4 to 1. So I'm not in on Stafford. I still like my preseason pick of Tom Brady, but I also have some action on Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson, I think that bad loss last week really hurt his MVP case. 16 to 1 preseason. Now he's 25 to 1. So his odds actually got worse. From the preseason. Wow. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm still going to stick with Tom Brady. I still think Tom Brady's going to win this award. He's a great story, especially if he can lead Tampa Bay to the number 1 seed in the NFC at 42, 43 years old. That's an incredible story, man. But let's take a look at the Super Bowl odds. Super Bowl odds going into Week 8. The Buffalo Bills at the top, Tampa Bay. The Rams, the Cardinals, Packers, Ravens, Cowboys, Chiefs still there. I need to see the odds for the Chiefs to miss the playoffs. The Titans and the Chargers. Where are you at? Who do you think that right now, through 7 weeks of the NFL season, who do you feel is the best team in the NFL?
Best team in the NFL. Wow, that's tough. That's a different answer for me than who I think I'd pick to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah. Give me both. Give me both.
So from a betting perspective, I would bet the Bills to win the Super Bowl, even though they have the lowest odds. But then you talk about best team in the NFL. It's really tough because I personally still believe that the Cowboys have one of the most complete teams in the NFL. It just comes down to how well does their defense play. And I can rag on you about the Cowboys all day long, but I truly believe they have one of the most balanced teams on offense. And then it just comes down to how well does the defense play. Arizona has a pretty good running game, better than I expected, but it's not the Dallas Cowboys run game. The Rams have a pretty solid run game, but it's not the Dallas Cowboys run game. The Buccaneers really don't have much of a run game, but it's gotten better, right? The three of those teams have much better defenses than the Cowboys. But if somehow the defense for the Cowboys stepped up for just a 3 to 4 game stretch, they could win a Super Bowl. And at 14 to 1 odds, I don't think that's crazy at all. But the reason why the Bills are my favorite to make the Super Bowl is because you look at this list: Buccaneers, Rams, Cardinals, Packers, Cowboys, all in the NFC. And they're all the top teams, right? You look at the Bills, the only teams they got to contend with in the AFC are the Chiefs, who don't even have a winning record, the Ravens, who they could probably beat, but it would probably be a pretty good game, the Titans and the Chargers. Now, I think the Titans will come up because the Titans have, I believe they're 5-2 right now, and they've got a pretty decent schedule. They play in an easy division. I'm pretty sure they still have a game or two against Houston. So there's plenty of room for the Titans to go up a little bit. But the problem is the bettors aren't going to give them a lot of respect. And I think the Bills have earned our respect. They got 2 shutouts. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're not allowing a lot of points. They're going to have an easy road playing in the AFC, especially if the Chiefs don't even make the playoffs. Dude, Like, who's going to contend with the Bills if the Chiefs don't make it? Maybe the Ravens, maybe the Chargers, maybe the Titans, but the Bills are head and shoulders above everybody. Yeah. Then you have the gauntlet of the NFC, and that's what makes betting the NFC so much tougher for a Super Bowl winner. If they come out of the NFC, great, but the chances of that happening are so slim for all of these teams. I just think it's going to be really, really tough. And ultimately, home field may be the greatest determining factor when it comes to betting for the Super Bowl.
Oh, man, Buffalo in those home games in December and January, man, just brutal, and I'm with you, man. You made great points. Like, if I'm betting the odds, I think it's Buffalo to win because it's the path of least resistance. The NFC, those first couple of rounds are going to be brutal. It's going to be like Saints versus Bucks, Cowboys versus Packers, Cardinals versus Rams. It's going to be like a war of attrition. Who's going to last at the end? And then do you have enough steam left to get through the Bills from the AFC? I think if I'm looking at the odds, I still like Tampa Bay at 5.5 to 1. They're doing it without their defense right now. Like, eventually they're going to get those guys back. Eventually, and we saw Antoine Winfield Jr. making plays, strip sack of Justin Fields in the game on Sunday. We're seeing some of these guys start to come back. Eventually they're going to, as long as they can get to the dance, it's about being healthy at the end of the season. And offensively, they are you cannot stop them offensively. We talked about how bad their run game is. They somehow have resurrected that, and they're competent on the ground. Tom Brady is playing, again, it's insane, but playing some of the best football of his career at age 43 right now. So I still like Tampa Bay's Super Bowl odds, but if you're asking me who the best team in the NFL is, I think it's the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have probably the best offense, or arguably one of the best offenses in the NFL. And their defense, this bend but don't break defense, and they always seem to come up with big plays at the right moment. Dallas has lost one game this season. It was their opening game versus the defending Super Bowl champs on the road with Dak Prescott not doing anything throughout training camp. And I do truly believe that if those two teams played again, the result would be different. The balanced attack of Dallas, the running game and the receiving game. They're getting Michael Gallup back. They found a tight end in Dalton Schultz. They're getting La'el Collins back to shore up that offensive line even more. You've got Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, and you have arguably the best quarterback, the best playing quarterback in the NFL right now in Dak Prescott. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball with right now who should be favored as the defensive player of the year, Trevon Diggs doing his thing. You've got Micah Parsons off of the edge. Think about this. Dallas is thriving, and they have not had DeMarcus Lawrence on the field. They're getting DeMarcus Lawrence back. Randy Gregory is looking like the guy coming out of Nebraska so many people thought would be the number one overall pick back in 2015. Their safety help is getting healthy. They're getting Malik Hooker back. They're working Donovan Wilson back into the fold. Anthony Brown is stepping up on the other side of Diggs. They're going to get the second-round pick, the kid from Kentucky, back. He didn't look too good, but, hey, we need bodies on the defensive side of the ball. I truly believe that the Dallas Cowboys are the best, most complete team in the NFL. But as you said, Jay, the murderer's row of the NFC is going to be sort of the deciding factor right here. But I still like the Cowboys at 14 to 1. I still think that is a favorable number for Dallas, but it is, the NFC is just so brutal, man. Brutal. And here's the thing. Stone said McCarthy's play calling will cost y'all down the line, Mr. Analytics. Luckily, Kellen Moore is calling the plays. We just need Mike McCarthy to work on his clock management, and we'll be okay. But, hey, they're a good team. They're a really good team. We're done. That's the show for the day. We've got to run. We've got some stuff that we need to do, but we appreciate y'all stopping by. Jay, appreciate you for joining me this morning, as you do every single day. Thank you, everybody in the comments that rocks with us. Once again, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk a little bit of college. We're going to take a look at some of the college games and start to get into some of the NFL matchups that we may be targeting come Thursday and Friday. So appreciate y'all waking up with us. We out of this thing. Peace.